Hi, in this course I'll show you how to create a simple mint page like this where we can mint an NFT and have that new NFT show up on the mint page, and then we can go into Unity and we can actually sign in to our wallet. And we can get those same NFTs that we can then use inside our Unity game. To do all this, we're going to be using the Near blockchain, which is a great blockchain solution. It's very fast and the gas fees are very cheap. So it's definitely a good way to integrate NFTs into your game. And I'm actually going to show you that it's very easy to incorporate this functionality. It can actually be done in just a few minutes. I'll also go through how to create your own smart contract on the Near blockchain and how to deploy that contract so that it's available to be used in your Unity game. Thanks for checking out the course, and let's get started. Prerequisites. So for this course you're going to need a computer, either a Mac or PC. You're going to need an internet connection, and we're primarily going to be using Unity. So if you go to unity.com and you will want to click on Get Started and click on the individual tab and download the personal version, and download the version for your operating system. So I would download for Windows, and that actually will download Unity Hub Setup, which you will want to run and install Unity Hub. Once you have Unity Hub installed, if you open it, you can go to the Installs tab and install an editor. And if you look at the one that I'm going to be using, this is 2021.3.6 F1, but any 2021.3 version should do for this course. So you want to click on install, and then you will want to make sure that you add WebGL build support. Once you have done that, you can click on the install button and that will install Unity for you. So that will do for the bulk of the course, but if you want to do the blockchain part of the course, then you will need a Near wallet. So we're going to be using the Near blockchain. So if you go to wallet.testnet.near.org, then in the top right you should be able to create a new account and create essentially a wallet that you can use on the testnet. You can also at the same time go to wallet.near.org and create a wallet that you can use on the mainnet. Now to build our NFT contract, you will want to install Node. So if you go to nodejs.org and download and install the correct version for your operating system. Once Node is installed, you can actually use Node to install the Near CLI. We'll actually go through that closer to the time that we're doing this. But if you want to try and install it yourself, or you know how to use Node confidently, you can come to docs.near.org/tools/nearcli, follow the setup instructions there to install Near CLI. The other thing you're going to need is Git, which is a version control tool. And we won't be using it very much, but we will be using it to pull down the source code for the smart contracts that we're going to build. And so come to git-scm.com/downloads and install a version of Git for your operating system. And you can actually use any editor when we come to that part of the course, but I would highly recommend using Visual Studio Code. So if you come to code.visualstudio.com and click on the download button, you can download the correct version of Visual Studio Code for your OS. Like I've said, primarily we're going to be using Unity, so you'll get a long way in the course just by downloading Unity. Okay, we're going to create ourselves a cool little mint site so that we can mint some NFTs and then we can bring them into our game. So we're going to be using the Near blockchain. So we're going to need a Near wallet. So if you haven't done so already, come to wallet.testnet.near.org and create yourself a new account so that you have a wallet. And this is a test wallet, so I don't have 588 US dollars. I have 588 fake US dollars in here, which is a shame. But if you click on the collectibles tab, yours will be blank if you've just set it up. But this is where your NFTs will reside once you've minted them. So we're going to get some NFTs in here, and yours won't look blank for very long, so don't worry about that. And actually these are some practice ones I've done, but we've added some nice backgrounds recently, so you've got some very cool NFTs that you can mint. Now if I come over to this other tab, this is just to say that we also need Visual Studio Code. So go to code.visualstudio.com code.visualstudio.com/download and download Visual Studio Code. And we're not going to need anything more than that because we're just going to use vanilla JavaScript. So presumably you have a browser that runs Java that's capable of running vanilla JavaScript, so we pretty well got everything we need. So open Visual Studio Code and it'll probably come to a screen that looks like this. You'll want to do File, Open Folder, and then you can create a folder. I've created myself a tutorials folder, and inside there a Near folder. So do that, select that folder that you've just created, and we're going to start with a nice blank folder that we're going to put all our code in. So this is a minting web page, so we need a index.html file. So let's create one of those. So Visual Studio Code out of the box has some kind of handy stuff built in. So it's got Emmet built in, so you can just start typing HTML and you can see that there's a :5 there, so I'll choose that. And that will actually scaffold out a basic HTML page, which is kind of cool. And we can title this page, I don't know, something unimaginative like my mint page, whatever you like. and just so that we could see something, we'll put a header tag in here, and I'm just gonna, you know, put something silly like mint stuff. Okay, so Control S to save. And how do we see this HTML page? Because I kind of want to be able to see it as I'm going along. I'm a bit spoiled with Unity that I like to see immediate feedback on the code I'm writing. So how do we do that? Well, actually, if you come into extensions and you start typing live server, as you can see, I've already got this installed, but if you click on that, you can see that there is a live web server that you can download as an extension, which is pretty cool. So, and this is extremely popular, 27 million downloads, so and good star rating. So this is a good way as any to see our HTML page. So once you've done that and installed that extension, you can right click, do open with live server, and that will bring up the web page. If it doesn't come up for you for some reason, or it opens up a browser that you don't like, you can open up another browser and just use 127.0.0.1:5500, and that should open the page for you. Now I'm gonna sort of tuck it, let's see, I'll tuck it over here like this, so we can kind of see it at the same time. I'll bring this in a bit. I think we're okay having our page about that wide. That'll be fine. And as you'll see, this page kind of gets updated immediately. So if I just put a, I don't know, some exclamation marks on the end here and do a save, then you see that they pop up immediately. So this is a live server that refreshes immediately, so that's pretty cool. Now the first thing we really want on a Mint site is being able to log into your wallet. So let's get that working. So I'm going to create a div here, and I'm going to create a paragraph. Just going to do ... in this paragraph. I'll give this an ID of, let's see, account. And then I want a button. And this will be a sign-in button. And I want another button. And this will be a sign out button. Now I want to get at these in JavaScript. So I am going to give them IDs. Like so. And I kind of want them all on the same line. So I'm going to do kind of naughty stuff here just to keep everything together, because we're not going to write like a massive page here or anything. This is mostly to show you the code needed to interact with a near wallet and a near contract. And so I'm not that interested in fancy web stuff and styling and all that sort of stuff, because I feel that will distract from what we're trying to teach here. But it is kind of nice to have stuff a little bit organized. So I'm going to do some inline styling. That's what I'm trying to get at. That I'm not going to do separate big CSS files or anything like that. So if you've not come across HTML and CSS before, this is a HTML page. We have HTML tags that we use to organize the page and tell us what we're trying to create on the page. So this is a HTML tag to create a button. This is to create a paragraph, to show some text on the screen, and this is a header tag, so this is kind of larger text. So nothing to be too scared about, but this bit here is a little bit unusual to have mixed in with your HTML, because this is actually CSS, and this stands for cascading style sheets. But it just means it's just a way of styling your HTML to get the HTML to look a certain way on the page. So you can change colors and position and all sorts of things with CSS. And often you'll find this is in a separate file because it's seen as being bad practice to put them all together. But I'm putting it all together just to kind of try and keep things a little bit simple. Right, I'm going to create another div now which will hold our input fields. So we're going to want to take some input from our user so that they can name their NFT they're minting, and also specify the image for the NFT. Now granted, this is probably not how you're going to want to eventually do your mint site. You're going to want to probably automatically generate your token ID. Your titles might be fixed depending on what image the NFT is getting linked to. So there's various ways of doing this, but this is sort of like the very flexible way, so you can kind of see what's going on, and then you can go away and change it as needed. So this is going to be an input of type text. We're going to do an ID of token ID, and we're going to do a placeholder that says token ID. Save that, and you can see that pop up, and this is an input field that people can type into. So that's how that works. Let's do, well, let's copy that. And this is title, an idea of title. Okay, so this takes in the title. Now the title, if we go back to our wallet, you can see that I've just added one here just to double check that title is the text that's shown here, and if we click on it, it's the text that's shown here. And then this is the description, which I've kind of hardwiring in, but you'll see that as well in a moment where we set that up. Okay, so let's save that. So we have our title. Going off the screen a bit, so I'm just going to move it. Here like so you can see it. Right, and what do we want next? So now we also want to take in our image. So let's copy that. And we're going to take in an image URL, so it's still text. And I'll give this an ID of image URL, and this is image URL. Then we want a button, which is going to be our mint button. So that looks good. And I'm going to just give this an ID of mint. Now at the end of our body, I want to bring in some scripts. And so I'm going to do a script tag here with a source equal to, and let's paste in this, link to the script here, and I'll obviously include this in the course resources, but this is a link to the near API. So we want to link to that, but we're also going to have our own script in the same folder as this index.html file, so we can do that easily enough with a /index.js like so. And it's going to be a module type, so I'm just going to do type module and save that. And another thing that's handy is if we right click our HTML page in our browser, it's handy to bring up the developer tools. Most browsers will have developer tools in. normally you can just bring them up by right clicking and searching for it. So in the browser I'm using here for Valdi, it's Developer Tools Inspect. I think it's the same in Chrome. And if we click on console, it can't find our index.js. Right, we're getting a bit of red there. A little bit like our console in Unity, right? It's handy to see what's going on and where we're getting errors. So similar idea. And yeah, let's create that index.js so that it stops complaining at us. So new file, index.js. And now it's not complaining anymore. It's found it, even if it's blank. Now I actually also want another file in here, which I'm going to call config.js. And it's kind of nice to keep our configuration all in one file, so that you know if you need to change like contract addresses or anything like that, then you know there's just one place you need to go. Often you'll actually save those things in environmental variables, but we'll keep things simple. So let's come into config.js and we're going to start writing some code now. Now the first thing we're going to bring in from the Near API is key stores. And we're going to bring this in from Near API like that. Now this is available to us because we did this line here. So we have access to our Near API like so. And key stores is needed because when you log in with the Near wallet, it's going to want to store away your keys securely in your local storage. So that will take care of that. Not something you have to worry too much about, to be honest. It's just something you need to set up as boilerplate, really. Now, contract name. This is an interesting one. So, unlike contracts on things like the Ethereum network, Near contracts have names, which is kind of cool. And we can find our name for the contract we're going to use quite simply because I've used it before. So I can come into my wallet and I can click on this NF tutorial contract here. So I've gone under collectibles and the name is this. So I can copy that XO, come back here. So now I've got my contract name, I can paste it in here. So this is actually the contract we're going to use to mint our NFT. So this is kind of a tutorial contract that's supplied by Near. I've actually, if you go back to my wallet, I've actually created my own contract here, which I'll show you how to do later. and we could use that one as well actually. Doesn't really matter, I don't think, but just to let you know that we are actually using one that's just out there as a kind of tutorial contract. The only problem with probably using this is that token IDs have to be unique, so you may struggle to find a unique token ID if you use this one. Okay, so I want to create a function called getConfig, and this is going to, now I did used to call this env, but I think I'd rather just call it network, because we're just going to pass it either mainnet or testnet in, and it's going to set up what we need depending on which network we want. So I'm going to take this code that VS Code has demonstrated, but I really don't want any of these other networks, so I'm just going to delete them. And this is all good apart from we want to set up our key store as well. So we can do key store, and then this is new key stores, browser local storage key store. And let's paste that down here. So to be frank, this is all pretty boilerplate stuff, and I'll show you when we go over the near documentation, near online documentation. You'll see that this is pretty well copy and paste stuff, so I can show you where to get this. But essentially what this is doing is when we get config, we're going to say we either want to mint our NFTs on the mainnet or on the testnet. And if we pass in mainnet, everything will be done on the mainnet, and if we pass in testnet, everything will be done on the testnet. And this will affect the login and everything essentially. So we'll see that in a moment. And the only thing that's perhaps unusual is that I'm passing in the contract name as well, just so that everything's in one place. We're setting up the config of everything in one place, and then we don't really have to worry about anything else in any of our other files. We can just come, if we want to change the contract, we just change it there, and that's all we need to do. Okay, right. Let's come back to our index.js, which we left blank, and let's import that config. Function. So we can just do import get config from config.js, like that. And let's come to our web page and look at our console to make sure everything's still happy, which it is. Right, so it's imported that config, and what we can do is do near config get config and we're gonna just do testnet. Now I'm going to show you how, because you haven't really written an awful lot of code. I mean, this is boilerplate kind of config code, and we've just got very small HTML, but literally we need to just add like 2 more lines, I think it is, and we've got wallet login working, which is pretty amazing. So let me just show you what that looks like. So if I import wallet connection from the near API, and in fact I won't import any of the other stuff that it prompted me for. So let's just do that. Let's get a reference to our sign in button. So that was sign in button, I think. Let's just double check. Did I call my sign in button? Yeah, sign in button. So the first thing we want to do is get a connection to near using connect near config. And it's saying connect is not defined. So this is good really, because this is kind of, it's been very quiet and so you can get a bit paranoid that your code isn't getting run, but this is telling us it is, and it's complaining. So we need our wallet connection, but we also need this connect here, pulling in from the near API. So there you go, that's kind of happy. So that has actually gone away and connected to the near blockchain using our config. So it's kind of looking at the testnet at the moment. And it would be actually interesting to log out the near connection just to see what that looks like. So yeah, it's kind of saying the config, got some stuff going on there. So it looks like we have got a connection to the near blockchain. Okay. And actually, let's just change this to mainnet, and we should see that that connection looks, yeah, mainnetty. Nice. So what can we do with that connection? Well, we can create a wallet connection, like so. Because we could even console log that out. And now we have a wallet connection, we can use this to sign in. So we want to sign in when the sign in button is clicked, so we can do on click and we can do something like wallet connection, request sign in, and we're going to pass in that near config dot contract name. Scroll there you go, contract name. And actually, before we sign in, we want to make sure we're back on testnet, because this contract, if we go back to the config, is a testnet contract. So it won't actually work on mainnet. So let's change that back to testnet. And on click, we're doing wallet connection dot request sign in. I think that should be happy. Let's see what happens. So let's click, let's bring this over here momentarily. Let's click sign in. And there you go. Let me just close this. We can actually already sign in to our wallet. Pretty cool, huh? So with just a few lines of code, really only about 4 main lines of code, these 3 and this, well, these, yeah, 4 or 5 lines of code, and we're signing into the wallet. It's that simple. Of course, it's not that great when you're signed in that you still see the sign in button. We're still seeing ... here. We're not showing the account that we're just signed into. It would be kind of good also to hide the mint section if we're not signed in. So we can do those little niceties, I guess, next. That'll be kind of cool. Right, we want to hide some stuff when we're logged in and when we're logged out, to be honest. So how would we do that? Well, the best place to do that, I think, is on window dot onload. Onload. There you go. So here, once the web page is loaded, we can decide to hide and show stuff depending whether we're signed in, right? So we can do an is signed in, wallet connection is signed in. Now, if we're signed in, what do we want to do? Well, let's first of all just console log whether we're signed in, and we can do an else and console.log not signed in, right? And let's hook up our sign out button. So we actually haven't got a reference to our sign out button here, so let's just copy this line, get a reference to our sign out button, out, and let's just handle signing out, which is pretty easy as well. So sign out button dot on click, and we want to sign out. Now we actually want to do a little bit more than sign out. We actually want to sign out and then reload the page. So we can do window dot location dot reload. Like that. So I'm sticking them all on one line just to make it look like our code is terser than it is, but it is kind of pretty succinct, right? This is definitely a one-liner really, and this is almost a one-liner, so I've kind of stuck it on one line. Let's have a look and see if this works. So we've got the reference, that looks good. This is looking good, I think we're good. Right, so let's bring up our developer tool so we can see our console, and immediately it's saying you're signed in. Okay, let's sign out. We're not signed in. Well, that was kind of easy. Let's try again. Sign in. Next. Connect. We're signed in. We're not signed in. So that's about as straightforward as you can get, really. That's pretty amazing. So let's show and hide things depending on whether we're signed in or not, right? So we can do sign in button dot style dot display equals none. So if we're signed in, we don't want to show the sign in button because we don't need to sign in again. And I guess we can do a very similar thing here. So when we're not signed in, we can't sign out. So let's not show the sign out button. Let's see if that's working. We're not signed in, and it's showing the sign in button. Okay, well, let's just get a little bit further before we test it. Now, when we're signed in, we kind of want to show the account that we're signed into. I have no idea. Well, let's just sign in and just do that. So sign in, next, connect. Okay, yeah, but I have no idea on this page here what I'm signed into, even though we are signed in. And this is what this dot 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 is for, right? We want to replace that. And what did we call our dot dot dot? That was ID account. Let's get a reference to that. So I'm going to call this account, P for paragraph, and this is document dot get element by ID account. Yeah, we just called it account. And down here, if we're signed in, we can do account P inner text signed in as, and we can actually get our account ID from our wallet connection. Makes sense, doesn't it? This is the wallet connection, and so we should be able to ask the wallet connection, what account are we logged in as, signed in as. Let's have a look. Signed in as morganpage1.testnet, which is exactly right. I guess we can sign in with a different one just to prove the point. So I can sign in with this one instead, morganpage.testnet. It's telling us our contract there. And yeah, there you go. And I guess we could also, if we're not signed in, hide this mint page. Yeah, let's do that. So that was a div. I didn't call it mint div, I just called it mint, I think. Let's have a look. Yeah, I just called it mint. And I guess we can just, when we're not signed in, we can do that. Nice. Okay, so we've got a lot of the wallet stuff done, signing in and signing out of our wallet. So the last thing we really need to do is just handle dealing with our contract. So yeah, let's do that next. Right, let's move on to minting now. So it makes sense that we hook up our mint button next. So let's do that. So we'll do a get element by ID. So that's basically linking up a reference to our mint button here. And let's also hook up our inputs. So we want token ID input is equal to document get element by ID token ID. So that is hooking up this one here. Then we want our title input. And that is this one here. And then the last one is our image URL input, which is equal to document get element by ID image URL, which is this one here. So we've kind of hooked up all this now. We've got our button and our three inputs all we've got references to all four of those. So underneath our sign out button dot on click, let's do our mint button on click. So mint button dot on click, and this is going to be multiple lines, so let's not try and get that all on one line. So I'm going to just console.log out minting, like so. But let's also output the values of our input fields. So whatever the user has typed into our token ID input, we can get to by doing token ID input.value. And we'll console log all that out, and let's just see what that looks like. So I'm going to do a token ID of 1. I'm going to say title underscore 1 here. I'm going to do image underscore 1 and hit mint. And there you go. So we've got our one, which is here. Title one. I've misspelled it to tile one. There you go. And image one. Excellent. So we're coming in here and we've got all our references set up. So that's all kind of tested. Now we're going to need our account ID. I just happen to know that. So we already know how to get that, right? Because we're doing it here. So that's nice and easy. And now we need a reference to our contract. So what we can do is contract equals await new contract. Now I don't think we're bringing this in. Let's have a look. So yeah, let's bring contract in there. So we're getting that from the near API, because the near API knows what a near contract is, so that's kind of handy. And then we need to supply wallet connection dot account. We need to pass in all the account information. This is more than the account ID. This, I mean, actually, if I log that out, let's have a look. Essentially assign it. Like that. And let's just console log it out. And we know what the ID is. Let's log out the actual account and see what that looks like. Click. It's a whole object there that this contract method needs. So that's what we're sending in there. So I can just use account now. And what else do we need to pass in? So we need to pass in the contract name. So there you go. We're getting that from our near config. That's kind of handy. And then we do need to pass in an object where we're specifying the view methods and the change methods that we're going to be dealing with. So what view methods are we going to be dealing with? Well, we actually just want to mint, right? So we're not actually calling any view methods on our contract. But if we wanted to, we could specify these here. And there are ones like NFT total supply that we can call. Or we can do NFT tokens for owner, which will show what tokens we already own. So we can come back to this if we want to do that. But let's just move on to actually minting. So this is a change method because this is actually, we're actually minting something. So we're obviously, it's a method that's changing stuff. And this is just called NFT underscore mint. And we can close off our object and close off our call to the contract constructor essentially. Right, so let's go ahead and do our mint function call now. So we can do await contract.nft_mint, and we want to pass in our token ID. Then we want to specify our metadata, and this is where we specify inside metadata, this is where we specify things like title, media, and under title actually I'm going to put in description. And I'm going to say something like, and of course you could actually create another input field to specify a description, but I'm just going to hardwire this in. A character in a course. And of course I should specify the amazing artist, who is Simone Silver. Now here we need to specify the receiver ID, which is the account ID. So I said we needed that, right? And then we can close off that. And then we need to specify the amount of gas we're willing to pay. And then we actually need to say how much we're going to pay for this NFT. So we do need this utils here, which I don't think we're pulling in. So let me just pull that in here. Because JavaScript has a little bit of a problem with large numbers, so we need a utility here to handle big numbers, and luckily Near supplies this. I'm going to make this 1 because I'm on testnet, so I don't care. And I think that is it. Okay, let's see how that works. So I'm gonna let's see. Let's just come up with a random name and image URL. I'm gonna paste in a URL to the uploaded image of our character 1. Or let's change this. We could make this character say 2 or 3. And let's hit mint. So we're going to pay 1 near, which is this, comes from this. And we're on testnet, so it's not actually costing us any money. And I'm going to approve this. And let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's go back to our wallet. Let's hit refresh. Come back to collectibles. And there you go. we have Emma here, who we have just minted to our wallet. How cool is that? Okay, so let's just quickly go over what these last two parameters mean. So this one here, I'm just going to put in here gas optional. So it's an optional parameter, and it's the amount of gas that we're going to send over to pay for the transaction. And I'm not very good at counting zeros here, but this is actually just a fraction of a NEAR token, because I think these are in Yocto NEAR, so they're quite small. So that's a small amount of gas actually, and it looks like a large amount of gas, but it's not. And then this one here is storage. So that's essentially how much we're going to pay in NEAR for storage. So this is actually a NEAR value here that's getting converted. So those are the two parameters. Now the good thing about the gas is that it actually, if we don't use all this gas, it actually gets refunded. So that's kind of cool. And NEAR actually has some pretty interesting ways that it handles transaction costs and things. So it's definitely worth, I'll add some links to the documentation, but it's definitely worth looking into that before you actually put this on mainnet and start doing your own NFTs. Now I think what would be nice is if underneath this minting line here we just show all the NFTs that we actually own. And I'll probably just show the images just to keep it simple, but you can definitely show title and description and all that sort of stuff. But just to keep things simple, I'll just show you how to get that information and display it. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this contract here kind of supports what we need to do that for some reason. So let's come back here and let's have a look at my wallet. And I'm pretty sure that this contract here does, though, the one that I created. Yeah, this one here does. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to put this in here instead. Let's save that. Let's just come back to our page. That should all still be fine. Now then, let's look at where we should have a look and see if we have any tokens. Well, we should only really do that when we're signed in, right? So we can do it in this little bit of code here. And we're going to need our account ID, which is this. So let's copy that. And I'm going to put this in a variable called account ID, like so. And then we can use that there. But now we can do very similar. Actually, we can probably just copy this line here because it's very similar to this. Let's paste that there. But we're not gonna call any change methods here, so we can just take out that. And then the view method we're going to use is NFT tokens for owner, which is the one that didn't seem to be supported by the other contract I was using. So now I'm using one that I've created myself. And then we can just do this, but again, this is actually account ID, like so. And then let's console log this out. So what are we doing here? So basically we've changed that contract name, right? So we came in here and it's basically creating a contract based on that contract name. It's saying we're going to be using the view method of NFT tokens for owner on this contract. And then we do exactly that, right? We use that contract and we call NFT tokens for owner on that contract object, and we send it in the account ID, which we're finding there. And then we're just console logging out those tokens. Let's have a look. Oh, and I'm not setting up account here, so I definitely need to do that. Easiest way to do that is do it directly inline, so I can do account like that. Because if you remember rightly, this new contract takes in the this account object. So let's try that. There you go, it's happier. And I can expand that out, and these are the tokens that I have in my wallet at the moment, in the testnet wallet. Now if I expand one of these out, we can see we have metadata and we've got the image URL there, and that's kind of what we want. So let's do that. Now, first of all, before I do that, I want to create a new div that I'm going to put these images in, and I will call this tokens. So I'm going to basically shove the images in this div here. And of course it's blank at the moment. So of course I want a reference to that div. So token div or tokens div is equal to get element by ID tokens. And then I can do, there's various ways of going through an array, but I could do tokens for each. I think that will work fine. And I'm going to do let token image equal to document create element image, and then I'm going to make the token image source equal that to that token.metadata.media. And let me just show you that again. So it's going through each one of these. So tokens is the whole array of 5 in this particular case. So tokens is kind of all that. For each token, so token is essentially one line. Token.metadata is going into that line and finding the metadata line here, property. And then it's going into metadata and pulling out the media property. So there you go. Now I'm going to set the style width to equal 100 pixels, so they're not too big. And then I'm going to append that image element to our tokens div. And then I'm just going to round everything off. Save that. And bam, look at that. Like magic. But let's, for fun, mint another one. And let's see it pop up here. So let's just think of a name. Let's do Annie this time. Annie. And let's paste in a URL to an image, and we'll use the second character this time. And this is actually a character with a background, because I uploaded the new characters to IPFS with these nice backgrounds that Simone's done. Let's mint that. Come down here, let's approve. Fingers crossed. There you go, we have Annie on the end there. So I think probably the most basic minting site you could come up with. Doesn't look that pretty, but it has the functionality to kind of show you how you would interact with the Near wallet. Manage to get yourself signed in or sign out if you want. And then it will show all the tokens that you have inside that contract that you've just kind of logged into. And then you can mint against that contract new NFTs, and then they will automatically pop up here. And so we now have some NFTs in our wallet that we can use in our game. Right, let's have a proper look at the Near blockchain. So right down the bottom of this links document that you should have as part of the course, we've got a whole load of Near links at the bottom here. The most logical place to start is near.org. So this just gives a sort of overview of what the Near blockchain is. Now, some of the interesting figures sort of halfway down the page is that the transaction costs are very low. So less than 1 cent per transaction cost. Definitely the gas fees are very low for the Near blockchain. It's definitely growing as well, growing quite rapidly. They've got a lot of active accounts and they're doing a lot of daily transactions. Now this time to finality is very interesting because that's very low. Beats Ethereum by quite a bit. Ethereum can be as high as 60 seconds for time to finality, and definitely averages around 30-40 seconds, something like that, I think. Whereas Near is managing 2.5 seconds, which is pretty impressive. What they don't say here, which I'm not entirely sure why, but their transactions per second are quite high as well. So Ethereum's transaction per second are pretty low, I think in the 30s or something, whereas Near's transactions per second are in the tens of thousands, up to 100,000 transactions per second, I think. Now they've got sharding and things working, so it's very quick, it's very cheap, time to finality is low, so it's definitely a very good blockchain and it seems to be up and coming. Now the other thing that I really like about the Near blockchain is it's very developer friendly. If we click on developers here, definitely I've met a lot of the developers that are working at Near, and they're definitely a friendly bunch and they really know what they're doing. I mean, it's important to have a developer friendly culture, and they definitely have that. And this can also be seen in the documentation. I mean, if we go and have a look at the documentation, there's a lot of really good documentation on the Near blockchain and a lot of really good in-depth tutorials. They're also trying to sort of lower the barrier to entry. So initially you could only do smart contracts in Rust, but now you can do smart contracts in JavaScript now. And they have a very good JavaScript API as well. Anyway, so again, that's pretty nice to see. The second link here is a great link. So this is the quick reference, which is this page here. Now I found this incredibly useful. It's just perfect really, because it's just snippets of code that show you how to do certain things really easily. And I like this tab. So you got testnet and mainnet, and the code changes depending on which one you're in, which is, yeah, that's very cool. Very, very handy. And you can probably recognize this code. You saw that I used code very similar to this in the course. So, and this is the key store, which is pretty well the first line of code we did was something that looked like this, right? For our mint page. I found this page incredibly useful. It does all the it has code snippets for all this kind of standard stuff you would want to do, like signing in, signing out. Let's have a look further down here, deploying a contract. And then interacting with contracts. You've got these, you've seen this already in the Mint site tutorial I did, change methods, etc. So yeah, very, very handy stuff. Even a bit on the Yocto Near. And like I said, the tutorials are really good. And what we'll do next is we'll go through one of them. We'll go through this NFT tutorial, and we'll create a NFT smart contract from scratch. Okay, so we've come to the Near Examples NF tutorial page on GitHub, and we're going to go through this Near NFT tutorial just so that we can get a smart contract up and running for our Unity game. So we've got some prerequisites here. The first one is to create a Near wallet account. Now for some reason this link seems to be failing. So what I've done is I've just added the links here in the document. So you will want to go here and create yourself a Near wallet account. So create new account here. And this is on testnet. But if you want a mainnet one, then I have a link for that as well. And a good idea to create an account on both of these. So once you've done that, we need to set up the Rust toolchain. So let's click on that. So it's pretty easy to get Rust installed using this in Linux or Mac OS. But if you're using Windows like I am at the moment, then we can actually come to the full installation instructions. So on Windows you can come to this page, and you probably want to install using this installer here on this button here. Now the next thing you're going to want to install is the Near CLI. Now this is kind of presuming you've got Node installed, and so if you haven't installed Node already, you will need to do that. And I think I have a link to Node, yes, in our links here at the top. So if you click on that, you can definitely install Node on your OS. If you're on Windows, then this is the recommended one to go for. So once you've installed Node, you can then go to a terminal and run npm install -g near -cli. And if that doesn't mean much to you, i.e. going to a terminal, then the easiest thing to do is install Visual Studio Code here, and then let me just show you what I mean by going to a terminal. So if you go into Visual Studio Code, and then I've actually got this near folder here, so just create a folder for all your near code. You probably already have done that if you've gone through and created the Mint site. And then go to terminal, new terminal. That will bring up a terminal window at the bottom here, and here is where you can do, well, let's go back and copy this, and here you can just paste in here and install the near CLI like so. If this doesn't work, then you probably haven't installed Node, because npm stands for Node Package Manager. It's just something that you get along with Node once you've installed Node. And then the final thing you want to make sure you've got installed, I think generally it gets installed along with Node, is Yarn. But you can do a npm install global yarn like so. Let me just do that. I mean, I've got Yarn already installed, but there you go. Okay, so once you've gone through all these prerequisites, we should be good to go. So let's come down here and let's do each one of these lines individually. So I am going to do this git clone. So come in here, let's paste this in. And then it's saying go to that NFT tutorial folder. I'm not going to do this, but I will do the yarn build. So I'm going to go cd, change directory to NFT tutorial, and then I'm going to do a yarn build. And this may take a while because it has to go away and grab a load of stuff. So I would go away, make a cup of tea, and give this some time to download what it needs to download. Right, once that's all done, we can actually go into our NFT tutorial folder, and let's just open it exclusively in VS Code. So I can do something like code, because I'm already in the NFT tutorial folder here, so I can do code _r, which means I'll reuse this window, so it should just open the folder like that. Now we're in our NFT tutorial folder in VS Code. Let's open the terminal up again. And the most interesting folder really is this NFT contract folder, and inside there the source folder, because actually in here we can have a look at some of the Rust functions on our NFT smart contract. So you probably recognize this one, NFT_mint. We've definitely called that in our minting site. So if you want to have a closer look at that and see what that actually does, you can go in here and take a look at the code. Right, okay, so let's just carry on with this tutorial though. So now we're going to actually mint an NFT. So we've actually got a mint site that will do this, but let's just do these lines because this is actually going to deploy the contract. So near login, let's go to our command prompt, and this is actually using the near CLI, which we've installed a little bit earlier. So if we do near login like that, that will actually bring up a browser window. And enable us to log in with our testnet wallet. So I'm just going to log in with morganpage1.testnet. Just have to type that in because it's granting full access. And now that's done that, and which account did you authorize for use of near CLI? So that was morganpage1.testnet. And there you go. We've done that bit. Now this bit here, I think it's a little bit easier to set these up and then use the line that I have got here. So I'm going to do it that way. Right, so our NFT contract ID wants to be something that looks a bit like this. So it needs to be, for me, it's morganpage1.testnet, but for you, you know, it's probably your name.testnet. So that's going to be that bit there, and then you want another name on the front of that. So let me just do an example here. So I'm going to paste in here, and I'm going to call this NFT tutorial -1, and then I can say morganpage1.testnet like that. So I'll set that up like so. Let's come back here, and then I just want to set up my main account here like this, and this is morganpage1.testnet like so. And if you remember, it was a name like this that we put into our near controller in Unity. So we only really had to specify two things. We had to specify this, and we had to specify the network we were on, whether it's testnet or mainnet. So this is important to remember what you've put here. Okay, so Now we want to do this line, but I've got my version here, which is this, which is using these two variables that we set up. This one here, which is the first one we just set up, and this one here. So let's just copy that. Come back here. Let's paste that. And now we've done this part here. So this is creating a sub account. And now we are ready to deploy our contract. And we can actually copy this line exactly as is and paste that in here. Hit enter. And now we're deploying our contract to testnet, and that's gone and deployed it. Right, we now need to initialize our contract. So let's copy that and initialize our contract. And we can actually view our contract's metadata now. And we can actually mint a token directly from the command line using the near CLI. So if you want to do that, you can copy this line, paste that in there, and now that should actually be visible in our wallet. And as you can see, that NFT is now in our wallet, and we can double check that that is the right contract. If we just click here, we can actually see the name of the sub account that actually holds that smart contract. Now what would be really fun is of course to use the mint site that we created and actually mint against that smart contract that we've just created. So if we do a cd ... like so, and we've got our mint site folder in here. So wherever you put your mint site folder, you want to go to that folder and open it in Visual Studio Code. You can either do it up here through File and Open Folder, or do it the fancy way on the command line like I'm doing. So that will open up our mint site folder. And of course, let's go to our config.js, and we just need to change this, right? So we were using a contract that I had created, but now hopefully at this stage you created your own contract, right? And so you can use that here. I'm going to use the one that I've just created to talk you through it. So let's just copy it from this page here, paste that. So mine was called NFT tutorial 1, and obviously has my account on the end there. And as you can see, you can see that all this code is taken from that near examples page that I showed you. But yeah, we should just be able to change that one line, and we haven't changed to mainnet or anything. We're still on testnet, so this line here is also fine. So make sure you've got testnet in here. And let's right click on index.html. Let's go open with live server. And now we should be able to mint our own token against that contract. Now I'm actually signed in with the wrong account here, so I'm going to sign out and sign back in. And Morgan page 1.testnet, yeah, that's the NF tutorial -1 contract. Yeah, I want to connect to that. And it shows the NFT that we've already got on there that we minted from the CLI. So let's just create a token ID that we've never used before. So let's use Jimmy. And let's maybe use an image that we've never used before. So I'm just going to use a Halloween mask image that I just happen to have lying around because it was just Halloween recently. And if I click mint, and approve, and there you go, we've just minted our little Halloween mask here. For some reason we called him Jimmy. And if I go to my wallet and do a refresh, I should also be able to see him in here. So hopefully at this point you will have installed Unity. So open Unity Hub, and if you haven't already got a game that you want to import the blockchain features into, then you can come to New Project, and I would recommend either 2D URP or 3D URP. Use those templates to create a project that you can import the blockchain package into and test it out, which we will go through in the next video. However, if like me you have an existing game, then simply open the game. I've already got mine open, and you'll be ready for in the next video to import the blockchain package. Now in the next video, at around the 5-minute mark, it will talk about some errors that are thrown up because in this game I'm actually using the new input system in Unity. So if your game is using the new input system in Unity, you'll get similar errors. However, if you're using the older input system, which actually it still defaults to, then at the 5-minute mark you can ignore that part because you won't get those errors and things will be a little bit more plain sailing for you. So just a little caveat there before you go into the next video. So I think it's about time that we got some NFTs in our game. So in the course assets you will find the RFG Near Unity SDK package. You want to download that, and then we can drag and drop that into our Unity project, and once I release it will ask me if I want to import the Unity package. I just click on import in the bottom right corner here. And that will import two folders, an RFG folder with near inside and a WebGL templates folder. Now if we go to the RFG near folder, we have a README here which essentially explains how we can get this SDK working. So the first thing it's telling us is that we need to set the build setting to WebGL platform. So if we come to File, Build Settings, we need to click here and switch platforms. So at the moment this SDK only supports WebGL, but hopefully that will change in the future. Now if for some reason you don't have this WebGL option under platforms, you need to actually come back to the hub here, go to installs, and for the version of Unity that you're using for the project, you will want to click on this cog here, click add modules, and just make sure that you tick, there you go, this one here. It's already ticked for me, that's why I couldn't see it. But yes, if WebGL build support is not ticked, tick it, click install, and that will make it appear in this platform box here. Okay, so the next thing it's telling me here is we need to go to player settings, player, resolution and presentation, WebGL template, and choose the near template. So let's go away and do that. The easiest way to get to player settings is to go to build settings and player settings here. And then if we come to player, then resolution and presentation, then WebGL template, and at the moment the default is selected. We just want to make sure that near is selected here. Alright, the next thing it's saying is that we can go to the example folder and open the example scene. So let's do that. And if we haven't got TextMesh Pro Essentials installed, it will prompt for that. So let's just install these. And we don't really need the examples and extras, so we can skip that. And then the final thing it's saying is under near canvas, near controller, we need to set our contract ID and network. So we've got a near controller under near canvas, and we have our contract ID, which is actually the one that we use for our Mint site. So that should work fine. And we're using testnet. Of course, if you deploy your own contract, you would put this in here, and when you come to actually go onto the mainnet, you would type mainnet in here. Now in the editor, if I hit play, and actually we can see that we're trying to use the old input system, but we switched to the new input system. Just for compatibility, the SDK we've just imported uses the old input system in event system, but we've already know that we can click on here and just replace with input system here. And let's just get my console back so that we can see these disappear. So let's click on event system. We've got this exclamation mark. We've done this before. Just click here and we should be happier. And actually in the editor, the interaction with the blockchain is somewhat spoofed. It only really works once we've deployed to WebGL. But you can see how it would kind of work. So you can click sign in and you can click get tokens and you can select a token and it tells you that that token is selected. Right, let's deploy and see if we get something similar when we're deployed. One thing to remember to do before you hit build actually is if we go into build settings, we'll probably have this sample scene in here. We want to delete that and then add open scenes, so it'll actually run our example scene here. So I'm going to do Control B to build and run, or you can just come here and do File, Build and Run here, and then you just need to choose a folder. So I'm going to do HTML builds like so. Select that folder, say save. Right, you should eventually get a web page up showing your running project, and let's check it out. So if we click sign in, we should get the Near wallet come up, and because we're on testnet it should be the test wallet. So I'm going to log in with morganpage1.testnet. Let's click connect. And now it says welcome morganpage1.testnet with a sign out, of course very similar to our mint page. And we have this get tokens button. So let's see if that will go and get our tokens. Yes, it has. They came down quick. And we should be able to scroll along and see the last NFT that we minted, Annie. And of course, if we select any of these, it will tell us the token ID that we've selected. So very simply, we've managed to integrate the Near wallet into our Unity project, and we've managed to pull in the NFTs that user holds in their wallet.